Although the new civilization grew and prospered, the Conclave kept a deep secret from the masses. There were several tribes of heretics who refused to accept the Khala because they believed that dissolving into oneness would deprive them of their individuality. The independent tribes were not hostile or warlike, but they believed their submission to the Conclave would result in the final death of their race. Protoss History, Part 3: The Dark Templar and the Golden Age of Expansion. Information about the dissidents, mostly from the Sagas tribe, was kept secret, for the Conclave believed that their delusions could spread throughout Protoss society and destroy everything Khas had once created. Convinced that the rogue tribes posed a tangible threat to the new order, the Conclave ordered the Templar forces to eradicate the dissidents. The Templar, led by a young warrior named Adun, could not decide on a massive terror against their independent brethren. Instead, they tried to hide the rogue tribes away from the sight of the Conclave. Adun believed that he could convince the rogues of the Khala's truth by teaching them how to manipulate their own latent psionic powers. Although their psionic abilities equal those of the mighty Templar, the dissidents refused to bend their free spirit to the laws of the Khala. However, it turned out that the restrictions imposed by the Khala have a deeper meaning. They help to cope with the powers that the Protoss possessed from birth. And without proper discipline, the power of these heretics spiraled out of control. Devastating psionic storms swept across the surface of Aiur. The Conclave, shocked that the Templar had not destroyed the rogue tribes, tried to salvage the situation. But at the same time, if the Conclave punished Adun and the Templar for their insubordination, then the fact of the existence of the rogues would become public knowledge, which the Judicators most wanted to avoid. Adun, under the threat of disclosure of information, forced the Conclave to change the sentence on the dissidents from death to eternal exile. The Templar under Adun was sworn to silence, and the rogues were put into an ancient but functional xel'naga starship and sent into the void of space. From that moment on, they became known as the Dark Templar. Later, the legend of the Dark Templar spread throughout Aiur, sparking the imaginations of many young Protoss. To show their disdain for the Conclave and their lackeys from the Judicator caste, the Dark Templar performed a ritual rite of cutting off their psi receptors, neural cords, which very effectively severed themselves from the basic communal link that all Protoss share. Rumors have been widely circulated that ever since the rogue tribes cut themselves off from their original racial bond, they have been forced to draw psionic energy from the dark, cold void of space. The persecuted Dark Templar, fearful of their brethren, led a solitary existence in their space Roman ships, until they eventually settled on the planet Shakuras. Traveling through the cold void of space, they did not lose their love for Aiur, and secretly protected their lost homeworld in every possible way. In the centuries leading up to the start of the Great War, the Protoss had excelled in space exploration in almost the entire sector. During this golden age, engineered Protoss flagships, known as motherships, patrolled vast distance of thousands of light years, leading great armadas of the Protoss fleet. Many shrines and temple gardens were built on the planet Belshir. And this place became sacred for the Templar, where they found solitude and peace. When this place became abandoned, the Teldarim took control of the planet. Believing the terrazine gas to be a gift from the xel'naga, Teldarim mystics created altars to collect what they called the breath of creation. During their space expeditions, the Protoss stumbled upon a humanoid race known as the Kalathi, several centuries after the Dark Templar were expelled. For a while the Protoss watched over the less advanced race and saw how the height of the civil war began. Based on the mistakes of their past, the Protoss decided to teach the Kalathi a lesson, so that they would stop fighting among themselves. But these actions only ignited anger in the hearts of the Kalathi, and they unleashed all the fury on the Protoss. However, the overwhelming power of the Protoss forces was much stronger than the Kalathi blood rivers. The Colossi burned the Kalathi alive and destroyed their cities. During the military conflict, almost all Kalathi were destroyed, and their culture had been reduced to the Stone Age. After that, one of the main principles of the Protoss, Teul, was revised by the Conclave, which introduced new restrictions that completely prohibited the Protoss from interfering with the development of less advanced civilizations. The use of Colossus combat robots was also banned, and they remained sealed beneath the surface of Aiur and in other Protoss vaults. During further space expeditions, an incident occurred that forced the Protoss to reconsider the security of their ships and the crews on board. Thus, two motherships with damaged Khaidarian cores crashed into a neutron star, resulting in the death of more than 8,000 Protoss. Grand Preserver Rohana and her sisters, in order to avoid such incidents in the future, offered to create technology that would allow the Protoss to withstand even the strongest dangers. This resulted in the creation of the ability to mass teleport the motherships, as well as the construction of 3 arcships: the Spear of Adun, the Memory of Nerazim, and the Pride of Altaris. When the question arose of building additional arcships, the Grand Preservers analyzed all their memories and came to the conclusion that sooner or later the Protoss would face a catastrophe, when even the arcships would not save them. And so it would be wise to save them until better times, and in cases of great tragedy, use them to restore the Protoss race, and not try to prevent a disaster. Because in this case the arcships will simply be lost. The Conclave agreed with this decision. 3 arcships were sealed in the depth of Aiur. On each of them, thousands of Templar warriors were immersed in stasis. The Grand Preservers also voluntarily entered stasis for many centuries, keeping the knowledge of their ancestors, and ready at the right time to become advisors to the executors, who in crucial moment will need all the power of the arcships. As the Golden Age came to an end, the Protoss motherships were left to drift in space, with the crew submerged in stasis.